Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Dragoon's Lair podcast. I am the Blue Dragoon himself, Daniel the Dragon, and with me once again is the incomparable family man himself, James Haynes.
I'm out of the sphere as always. Let's see what we guessed this week.
All right, folks, so let's just get everything off and rolling to let everybody know that what are we going to be talking about this week on the Dragoon's Lair podcast, Jimmy? That's right. We're going to be talking about the Paul Reubens documentary, Pee-wee himself. We're also yes, and we're also going to be discussing what movie?
I believe it's
Hard Eyes. That's right, because it's Friday the 13th, so why not cover a horror movie on Friday the 13th? And then we're also going to be discussing...
Speaking of horror movies, Money in the Bank.
Yes, we will be discussing the results from WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
And I'll be going into the vault right after Danny's anime.
That's right. So first off, we're going to drop some anime recommendations because we're waiting for a lot of the stuff to come out for July for the summer season. There's been a lot of good stuff that's gone on throughout spring, but I've pretty much covered a lot of what I've seen because unfortunately things are still going on and I'm a dub watcher. So because I prefer to watch most things dubbed, it usually takes a little longer. And right now, like My Hero Vigilantes is actually really good. I'm enjoying it so far for this season. I'm really looking forward to Rising of the Shield Hero Season 4. Hopefully, the pacing and some of the issues that people had has been resolved in the new season. Also, My Dress Up Darling Season 2. I'm excited for a lot of like the returning seasons that are coming back. But I want to make a classic anime recommendation because, you know, it's popular, but it's not as popular as I feel like it should be. And that would be Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes.
Yu Yu Hakusho had its live action like showing on Netflix, which it really was part of the overall story. I feel like it should have had a second part because they completely left out and they stopped at the Dark Tournament and pretty much cut the Dark Tournament short. The anime basically does follow Yusuke Urameshi, a high school kid who's kind of an outsider, a little bit of a rough bully, but not to people. He pretty much bullies other bullies. Street kid gets into a lot of fights, ends up sacrificing his life to save a little kid, and gets a second chance at coming back into his body. That's like a first little story arc. And when he comes back, he becomes a spirit detective working for the spirit world, taking on demons and the other evils that would kind of deal with that situation. It's hard to describe because there's a few different things, but it does have probably one of my favorite tournaments, which would be the Dark Tournament arc, which is absolutely amazing. And usually that was where Toonami's like cartoon stuff would actually cut it off. And it took a while before it was able to go to Adult Swim on their Adult Swim Toonami block late at night on the weekends to actually finish off the anime. So if anyone hasn't seen it, it is on Crunchyroll. I believe it's still on Netflix as well. It's definitely worth a watch. The first few episodes aren't really what the story's about, so it's more getting to know some of the main characters, and then after that it really picks up, so I highly recommend it. So now, Jimmy, you have some movies you want to pull out of the vault for old school recommendations.
Absolutely.
What do you got?
The first one I got, well, like I said, and I asked in the poll, how do people like multicast or small cast? Well, basically the two I'm going to do, both of them have James Coco first off. And the first one is called Scavenger Hunt from 1979 with James Coco, Dirk Benedict, who everybody remembers as the Face Man himself, and Starbuck, Scatman Crothers, Richard Mulligan, Cleavon Little, and Vincent Price in the beginning. All right, what it is this. Vincent Price is a game technician, and he's getting old in age, as everybody knows. back in this late 70s. That was Vincent Price's age back then. Yep, old and starting to go. He's sitting there with his nurse playing this crazy game with a frog. Next thing you know, he's gone. Leaves his will, and to it he leaves to his snotty niece, his cool nephews, a taxi driver where everybody's like, what are you doing here? And his staff, a scavenger hunt. And the object is, he gives everybody the same list, and you have to get all this stuff out on the list, bring it back, and you win $200 million. And basically what it is that you can go get a San Diego. It takes place in San Diego. You get a Chargers helmet, a beanie, a knight in shining armor, you could say. All this crazy stuff, including a fat guy in little shorts. Yes. And there's not only one, there's three of them that hang out in the pen. So it's really, really nice, interesting, a little nostalgic and all that. It's crazy, that mad world and everything, but everybody's looking around for all these crazy stuff and all the crazy stunts that they do and tricks to get everything. And I recommend that. And then the second one with James Coco I recommend is, and I almost forgot that it was a Neil Simon production of Murder by Death. It has James Coco in it. And what Neil Simon did is he made fun of Sam Spade, Perot, Hercule Poirot, let's put it that way, not Ross Perot. He made fun of Charlie Chan. He made fun of everybody. He had Peter Sellers is in it, Peter Falk, Alec Guinness as the blind butler, talking to the deaf maid who's played by Nancy Walker. And she's trying to tell him stuff, and he's like, okay, he's just giving her orders and everything. And little by little, they're there. Truman Capote, no joke, he is in this. And he gets everybody together because it's a little twist, and whoever solves the murder gets the prize. But everybody's all linked with these twists. And it has who's his niece, who's this, who saw him there, who, etc. And I highly recommend it. It was no movie that I had. And it's something that's funny because you're trying to figure out what Peter Sellers is saying as his Charlie Chan voice. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen next in it. And any questions, comments, please feel free to email me on my sites, or you can email us at
dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'll have 2 more next month.
That's right. So we're going to start doing this where it's going to be some classic movies that Jimmy's going to recommend. So
From the vault.
Yep. So, Jimmy, where can they find these movies if they want to watch them?
They can find them on, you can check Prime basically to check, and also check your Roku. This is what I've always cracked up to do. Check your Roku, and then you'll see what streaming services, whether it's Tubi, Prime, Apple Plus, Netflix, all have it. If I apologize if they got to rent, but please, or if you like it, you can buy it because you like someone in the movie. Go for it.
Yep, there you go. So now let's quickly go over Money in the Bank because we need to hit the shit show. And I hate saying it because the opening match was the women's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yes.
And you had, honestly, some of the most talented women in there, but I feel like one of the major problems was you had Stephanie Vaquer actually going and competing on Worlds Collide and had to then transfer over to come back for Money in the Bank.
Plus, she was on SmackDown the night before.
Yeah, so she was pulling some
24 hours, she did how many matches?
Yeah, she had at least 3 matches within 24 hours, and Stephanie Vaquer is amazing. I would have liked to have seen her win. I mean, I'm a huge Rhea Ripley fan. I love Alexa Bliss. And I don't know too much about Julia or Roxanne Perez because I didn't really follow their NXT careers.
Julia's more like something, second coming of Oscar in a way.
Yeah, but Stephanie Vaquer has really like sold me on who she is very quickly. But then you go and you have Naomi in the match.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not for nothing. I think they made the right call giving it to Naomi because she's had such a great run as this like psychotic that it actually works.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they pull off and when they do the cash in. Mm-hmm. Now that we did get a Dominic Mysterio match against Octagon Jr., which was not scheduled at all.
No.
And I have to say,
it was a good filler.
It was a good filler, but also Dominic Mysterio keeps getting better. Mm-hmm. You know, you may not like him so much, but that's who his character has been. Yeah. But I got to give the kid credit. You know what? He's gotten better, and I think ever since they paired him with Liv Morgan, the crowd is willing to actually let him speak a little more than what they used to. Now, we had the men's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Oh, yes.
Which, unfortunately, was filled with a lot of extra people getting involved. Mm-hmm. But it had...
But not the people that you thought would be there.
No. But I have to say, I did like the fact that we did get now probably one of the best moments from that entire match was Jacob Fatu turning on Solo.
Jacob Fatu is just basically sold himself to the fans. 100,000%.
The fans were already sold on Jacob Fatu.
He just solidified it.
Yeah. Now, Seth Rollins winning, I don't know if that was the right call. I honestly feel like it really should have gone to LA Knight.
Yeah.
LA Knight, I feel, really deserves the push. Mm-hmm. Seth doesn't need it for anything. He's pretty much been a world champion enough that he can go, and his new faction, it doesn't really make too much sense for him for this. But this was the direction that they were going in, so we'll see where the chips fall, where they may on that one, and we'll find out how Solo takes it. There is rumors that Hikuleo might be making his appearance on SmackDown as of us recording this on Friday the 13th for the Friday the 13th episode of SmackDown, so we'll find out after that. We're not going to cover that.
No, but just to refresh people that may know or not know Hikuleo, Hikuleo has been in New Japan and AEW. He's about, 6'4"? As to compare to his two young older brothers, Tamatanga Tangaloa, he is Haku's other son. Yep. And whoa, daddy.
Another member of the Samoan dynasty.
But you can't tell, like, wait a minute, he's Samoan with that height?
Yep. And now we got to talk about the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. It was a good match overall. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria.
Yeah.
Lyra and Becky, there was one major botch and had nothing to do with either one of them. It was the camera. The camera was in the wrong spot. We did not see that the pinfall was going through. Becky was grabbing the tights. We couldn't see it from the angle. So Michael Cole did a good job at trying to cover for it. I think the announce team has actually gotten better at trying to cover for some of the glitches and the screw-ups.
Hijinks.
But there's going to be issues because you're doing this live. You know, people are going to slip off the ropes. There's going to be fatigue that's going to set in, so somebody may not hit their move that you're used to seeing them hit. And Becky Lynch winning the title, I think it was only good to serve the purpose of giving a new champion the belt, because Lyra's been the only one to have that belt since day one. So to add a little more prestige to it, I feel letting Becky have that title is a good call, because Lyra did a great job as the champion, but it's not the same prestige when it's just her.
Yeah.
So I feel like the titles, these mid-card titles, need to change hands a few times, even though I don't want to see the United States Championship change hands for the women, because Zelina Vega is doing an amazing job.
Absolutely.
So now we'll go to the main event for Money in the Bank, the tag team match between with John Cena and I can't even say this idiot's name.
The Prime bitch.
Yeah, Prime bitch. And then we had versus Cody and main event Jey Uso.
Yeet.
Exactly. 4 letters, 1 word.
Yeet.
Yep. So now the best moment in that match really was Cena and Paul turning on each other and like arguing, buying Jay enough time to get to the corner and get Cody in. Like they were on the same page and they weren't on the same page. The story was working really well. And then Paul's botch, where he went for a move that he's done quite a few times. I give him credit for being athletic, but he is not somebody I want to see week in and week out. He should never hold a title. He hasn't put in the time. If you pick something up quickly, that's great. But I feel like he should have started this in NXT if this is where he wants to go as a career. But you know what? Jay made the perfect move out of it and was able to hit him with a super kick. It worked, and then we get Ron Killings coming out because he's no longer R-Truth.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
The truth has set him free.
Yeah.
It's Ron Killings, which I have to say, some of his music has been popping up in my Spotify recommendations, and he's actually really good.
He is.
So, and it's not what you would think the music is, and he's just actually a really good musician. So, the fans wanted him back after he was unceremoniously released. You know, they want to claim whether it was they made a mistake or it was all scripted. I'm going to go with they made a mistake. The fans opened their mouths and made themselves heard, and they had no choice but to cave because between the fans and the wrestlers backstage, they were able to get him back in there. So we're going to see where that all plays out. But Cody and Jay taking the win at Money in the Bank, I feel was the right call to set up Cody to be able to go for that title again before Cena disappears. But now,
he got left 17. What do you say? 16, 17 left shows.
It was like 18 after Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we know he's going to be at the Saudi event
Against Punk.
Yep. And the only thing that I can say that's been positive out of this horrible schedule that they have, because there seems to be a pay-per-view every other week. So every 2 weeks, it's another pay-per-view. Gives us something to talk about, but it's a lot to take in for scheduling-wise. But I am glad that the Women's Evolution pay-per-view event is coming back.
Hotlanta.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that because they have a stacked women's roster.
They've already scheduled one match.
Yeah, but...
And it's an NXT match.
Yeah, but my thing is, I feel like they made a huge mistake letting go of a bunch of the women before the Women's Evolution pay-per-view.
Well, they just leaked out on Instagram and Threads that there was supposed to be a third member to her security. How do you say her?
There was choices, but things happened.
It was supposed to be
for the Secret Her service.
Yeah, Secret Her service.
Secret Hervis.
Hervis. Yeah. Well, it sounds Herbie. Get some time and some rosemary.
No, but listen, Chelsea Green
Chelsea Green
knows what she's doing.
Piper Niven was good. Alba Fire. They were supposed to add Blair Davenport.
Yeah, but
until they released her.
Listen, and now the Pure Fusion Collective is all gone because unfortunately Zoe Stark got injured.
And rumor is that Zoe has announced her retirement.
She pretty much has. She said her knees are basically glass at this point. So unfortunately, Zoe Stark seems to be out of commission. But I feel like once again letting Dakota Kai, Isla Dawn, letting go of Katana Chance and Caden Carter and Chance.
Roman.
Yeah, but I'm talking just the women's side.
The women's side, I agree.
They let some of the most talented women go, and unfortunately, now you're doing the women's pay-per-view.
And you let Gigi and Shotzi go.
Yeah,
Really?
Well, Shotzi, they just didn't renew her contract.
Yeah, I know. But it was, I mean, still. But she's doing independent work and everything. She's doing
Yeah,
what she wants
but
to
I
do.
honestly feel like the mistakes were made, and because we're cutting costs. How about you don't charge so much to go to an event? That's where you would get more people in the seats if they can afford to. People will buy more merchandise if they can afford to buy it, and they'll do it at the shows. But you can't do it when you're price gouging everyone. The cheap seats should not be $500.
I heard 5. How about let's go higher?
I know, but
$1,000?
I'm being conservative because that's you're not gonna be seen on TV because that's behind the main camera.
Yeah.
But it really boils down to TKO is price gouging the hell out of everyone. I'm honestly surprised that TKO Sports has not gone and sold off and allowed the Saudis to basically own that too, considering the fact that they're sports washing everything with the Live tournament. You know, now they've got their hands in FIFA. It's too much for one organization to own all these different other sports.
Yeah.
And this is going to end up being a problem down the line. But I can see it happening. It's just a matter of time before everyone else starts to see it too.
And did you also see that they rectified a problem on Saturday and then that made a big announcement for next year?
Oh, yeah.
They're doubling down on Vegas.
Because they didn't check the schedule. The venue in New Orleans was already booked. So congratulations. Here's another Vegas. This will be the second time that they have done a WrestleMania in the same venue. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the first time was
Atlantic City.
Yep.
4 and 5.
Yep, and not really the best of WrestleManias back then.
Well, back then it was. You got to understand, it wasn't a global phenomenon.
No, but it was just the event itself. Just was. They're not as memorable as some of the other ones.
That was when Savage won the title, and then the next year the Mega Powers exploded.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's about it.
Yeah, but there really wasn't a lot of other memorable matches, unfortunately, on those cards. Now, the thing is, I do want to discuss the Pee Wee Herman documentary.
Yes.
Because this one I really want to take a deep look into because the life of Paul Reubens is absolutely interesting, and he was probably one of the most interesting individuals because he was so talented, and I don't think people realized how talented he was. But his background, like coming up, what was it, the Groundlings?
Yeah.
Like doing improv, being there with Elvira and all these other talented people. And the fact that he hid that he was gay for the longest time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that did make him a target, which the first half of the documentary really focuses on his youth, his early startings, and how he came up with the Pee Wee character and leading into the success of Pee Wee, which I think a lot of us had an idea of, but not to the extent.
Yeah.
Where Pee Wee Herman was a phenomenon, the stage performances, but he was popping up in other things as Pee Wee until he was able to get his big break.
And even the dating game.
Yeah.
And he popped up there twice, but they only showed when he won.
Yeah.
Which was cute.
But not only that, I mean, you figure you had him doing cameo episodes of Murphy Brown. Mm-hmm. He was all over the place. Paul Reubens made a name for himself, and most people didn't even know his name was Paul Reubens. Everyone knew him as Pee Wee
Herman.
He was very reclusive and kept to himself, which I have to say is very difficult. I don't think any celebrity could really do that nowadays with the internet, but back then, before the internet and everything, he was able to keep the persona as a shield to cover who he was and keep himself separate and private.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't think most people would recognize him outside of the Pee Wee outfit back then.
No, they didn't.
No, and even when he would go on late night talk shows to promote the movie, to promote his kids show, he stayed in the Pee Wee character. Which I got to say, the Pee Wee, like showing about Pee Wee's Playhouse, a lot of that was very interesting, the way that they put it together, because it really was a collective of the people that he came up with the groundlings and a whole bunch of other people he'd worked with over time. I mean, having that cast for Pee Wee's Playhouse was absolutely amazing.
And where they went afterwards is still amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, sometimes some of the people fell out with him, where we found out like him and Phil Hartman had stopped talking for a while, but unfortunately that was probably never got reconciled due to Phil Hartman's passing, and Paul Reubens only passed away in 2023.
Yeah.
So in 2023,
and they did this, if in the beginning they show he hid that he was sick from the directors.
Oh yeah, he didn't tell anybody that he was sick. So I mean, the first part really does focus on all the lighthearted stuff, like his background as a kid, growing up, joining the groundlings, and like actually like his full start, which I have to say was like very impressive. And like the creation of Pee Wee's Playhouse, and like even how they got Pee Wee's Big Adventure going.
Yeah.
The second part, however, is where it starts to take a little more of a darker turn.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Where do we go on that one?
We can.
All he wanted to do was just sit in the movie theater. And next thing you know, back then, even anywhere, no matter what, you got to understand, no matter where you go, if you're a popular person, even if you dress in a t-shirt and jeans, someone spots you, you better make sure that they don't have a camera or anything, because even back then, you'll get caught.
But back then, it was a little easier to hide.
Yeah, because his hair was even longer.
Yep.
And all, and he got caught in an adult theater and everything, and they got charged.
Yep.
And everything. And he is one of the many funny pictures that everybody looks at between him, Nick Nolte, and everybody else in the book.
Yep. Because there is an entire book of celebrity mugshots,
which is we recommend.
Yeah, if you want to see a nice collection of celebrities and who's been pretty much locked up, even if it's only overnight.
I'm still wondering what the hell let them have Paris Hilton still do her makeup. But any which way, to get back, he'd been on MTV.
Yep.
And everything. I still remember he had little skits with the original VJs and all, which was really pretty popular. And he was featured in Reggae Christmas for Bryan Adams, going all around in his little Rasta
Yep.
But his main comeback, even too, was no one expected it, and it was like the first of the many in the next couple of years as they come along, including with a certain King's Daughter and the King of Pop coming up. He made an appearance at the MTV Music Awards.
Yeah. Now,
had any jokes lately?
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, though, like his show got canceled.
Yeah.
But he had done like an entire like holiday special that came back down the line. There was so many things that his career bounced back from, and I think like probably one of the interesting things where I don't think they realized and really focused on part of his comeback in the documentary was after Pee-wee, he started going for other roles. And one of the first big roles was him working with like David Arquette and everything in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. So the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, he was in there, long hair. He made sure he didn't look like Pee-wee at all.
He looked like Paul Reubens.
Yeah, he had the goatee, the full goatee, and like the long hair. And then to do another movie after that where he was in Blow. And I'm sorry, but I saw him in Blow, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he still had a little bit of the funny, goofy stuff. But when I saw him in Blow, I saw a serious actor
Yes.
who you saw real range. Because he saw Pee-wee's, Big Top Pee-wee as a flop. Because he kind of went against the grain of what people thought for Pee-wee. But now it's like you're seeing him in Blow, and it was like, whoa, like this guy can act.
This is the guy that was Pee Wee Herman. Everybody's like, oh wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the fact that he was a major collector, he collected so many things. His house was basically a museum.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the collecting and him being a closeted gay man didn't help it anything when they came after him, because unfortunately, he had worked with Jeffrey Jones, and someone tied him and Jeffrey Jones together, and he was being accused of having, I don't want to say it because even I know it's completely false,
Yeah.
and I never believed it even back then, but having underage pornography, which I know he didn't do, because even when you saw his collection for the stuff, it was homoerotic art.
Yeah.
It was magazines, photos. Everyone in his stuff
It was stuff where it was basically you could link it back to when Betty Page's pictures
Yeah.
were. And I mean, that was art back then. But now they're like, oh no, that's not art. That's homoerotic. That's kiddie.
And-
no.
Yeah,
kicking that in.
they were classifying everything together as one thing when it wasn't. And they even said, like, when you look in the documentary, if you look through what they were taking, some of the boxes weren't even opened. He owned things and didn't go through them, so he had so many things, being a collector. And he just wanted to live like a solitary life, but he had one hell of a life that I think nowadays would, if he was coming up now, he wouldn't have been persecuted the same way, because I think they took a lot of it because he was a closeted gay man and didn't come out about his sexuality, so that made him more of a target. But his fans did not care.
No.
And they rallied behind him, and
They still filled the theaters to see his Pee Wee show.
Yep.
The comeback shows. They all still filled him. They all told him, we still love you.
Yep.
And everything.
And the good thing is you can see a good chunk of the Pee-wee stuff on HBO Max, because it went from HBO Max to Max. Now it's back to HBO Max, even though the logo still says Max.
Yep.
But no, so you can still check out. I think the one thing I didn't see on Max when I was looking through for the recommendations after watching the documentary was they didn't have Big Top Pee-wee.
No.
Which I can understand, considering it wasn't as big a success as Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but they also have Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I believe they also have the Broadway show.
Yeah. The Christmas one with him and Joe Manganiello is on Netflix. I
Yeah, because that one was created by Judd Apatow, I believe.
Yeah. And also, no one realizes he was in Cheech and Chong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was still playing, basically. He was Pee-wee still then.
Yeah, it was Pee Wee.
And now they show that in the first part of the documentary.
Yes.
I highly recommend for anyone who's interested in a good documentary, but also in the life of Paul Reubens, because that man has a very interesting life. Like, we're touching only on a fraction of it, and it doesn't do it justice. And the way that the documentary ends, I don't want to spoil it for anyone,
No.
because there was some contention between him and the director of there. So you have to see how the documentary all comes together by the end. So I definitely do recommend.
Absolutely. Same here.
Pee-wee himself is an absolute good documentary.
Both parts.
But I count it as one part in total.
Yeah.
Because it may have been broken up into two sections for release, but it really is one long documentary about Paul Reubens' life, and I highly recommend it.
And one thing I just found out the other day, you know who sang his the Pee Wee Playhouse theme song?
Oh, I know it. I'm forgetting. Go ahead.
Cyndi Lauper under a hidden a surname.
Oh yeah.
People didn't realize that.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, Cyndi Lauper did it. She just didn't do it to make any money, so it didn't go under her name.
Yeah.
And
That was Cyndi for you.
yeah. I mean, when you see all the people that Paul Reubens is connected to and everything, and like his life, it's absolutely amazing. So now we've talked wrestling, we've talked Pee-wee.
Let's talk on the meat of the day, the Friday the 13th part
Yep.
of it, the horror episode part of the episode. Yes, let us talk about Hard Eyes, which they put in, no joke, on Netflix as a horror comedy.
And it kind of was a little bit.
Yes.
But at the same time, this came out on Valentine's Day in February. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it came to Netflix this quickly,
among other things,
says
on the net.
Yeah, says something. Yeah, but says something. Now, I can't give this movie a great review. I will say, like, the cast was good, but at the same time, I did enjoy the Hobbs and Shaw joke because of
you got that too.
Yes,
especially
they pointed out. But not only did they point it out, but when you look at who is part of the Hobbs and Shaw,
Jordana Brewster.
Yeah, who's part of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah.
Which, before we go any further, I have to say, when are we getting the next part of the Fast and Furious Fast X? Because it was supposed to be broken up into 3 parts.
I heard it was supposed to be 2.
Originally 2, the studio wanted a 3rd part. Now, the thing about that is,
it was supposed to be out.
It came,
basically,
but
in July.
The first movie came out around the exact same time as the last Mission Impossible movie's first half. So, it's been what, 3 years?
At least 2-3 years.
2 to 3 years. We have not seen another trailer, anything for the next part of Fast 10 Part 2.
We've seen teaser trailers for the Godzilla King Kong, which is in production.
Part 2, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
But have we seen something for this? No.
No, and that's the thing. Like, we've seen so many different trailers that have come out. Meanwhile, they already got most of that shot, so they should have been able to at least have a trailer put together. So I don't know if there's a production issue, if it's a rights issue, if there's a release date issue, but can somebody please fill us in and let us know where the next part in the franchise is for the Fast and the Furious.
And you can email us at
dragoonslayerpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslayerpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you. Now getting back to Hard Eyes.
Now, Hard Eyes has Jordana Brewster. Yes. It has Devon Sawa. What was it? Oh, shoot. I hate Dagger from Cloak and Dagger.
I'll get back to it. But
yeah,
she plays the main.
Yeah,
one of the main roles.
You've got a good cast for this, and you have a killer that's taking people out on Valentine's Day and is going after couples. Now, I have to say, the way the movie starts off actually was pretty good. Olivia Holt, thank you. I knew it was Olivia, but I couldn't remember the last name. But no, so the way the movie opens up, having like a proposal that it's all being staged, and it's like they're doing this, and you're just like, are you kidding me? And the killer goes and actually starts taking out a couple that's getting engaged, and you find out that each year in different cities, there's been the Hard Eyes killer killing couples. I kind of would have liked to have seen more of the killers from the different like couples that the Hard Eyes killer was taking out. Unfortunately, we were only told about it, and that's one thing that I think is a detriment to this movie is you're telling, not showing, and I think this one's more show it, don't tell us about it.
It also made a decline in red wine, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
One of the killings.
Yeah.
And white wine and blush. Well, not too much blush either, but
no, but it was. But
white wine has been increasing lately.
At a winery, you get a pretty cool kill that the girl goes and she hides inside the machine to crush the grapes, and she pretty much gets crushed in there.
She becomes the crush grade.
Yep. So it doesn't look very pretty, but the heart, I will say I did like the mask.
Yeah.
The mask was really cool because the eyes also had like a light up feature to it, so you could kind of see in the dark.
Yeah.
Which does play into actually the lights go out and the killer is actually turns them on to try to track his prey, which I thought that's actually pretty good because most of the killers that we see, they don't have an extra little bonus feature in the mask.
No.
It's just a mask. No, this one actually has lights and everything. So the mask worked. You've got a couple reluctant to even be a couple, even though they're attracted to each other, being stalked by the Hard Eyes killer. And I will say it was interesting that you think the movie's over and it's not over.
No.
The movie kept going. It had a few good twists and turns, but I feel like for this movie, it was not as big a body count as it should have probably had.
They needed more weapons.
It wasn't even weapons.
I know.
It was just like there was a body count because there is a sequence at a drive-in movie theater on Valentine's Day and people are getting slaughtered left and right.
As they're watching His Girl Friday.
Yeah, which I gotta say, nice idea, having a classic movie being played at a drive-in. The only thing that I can say is the body count really was lacking in this. And unfortunately, I can't give this a great review for a movie. Now, while I did enjoy the cast, I love some of the jokes, but for a horror movie, and I get it because it's themed for a holiday, just wasn't doing it.
It was interesting in my point of view. I mean, the killings, why they went after him and everything, but it was just a cute little horror comedy in a way and everything, and they're looking at all. I mean, it was romance and everything like chick flick. Maybe no, a horror chick flick, yeah, kind of maybe, but all in all, it was interesting how they went about going after them and everything and help and all that, but it's I mean, and then you had that little ending at the end and everything. It's like, I have you on. I'm like, really? You have to call us for this?
They needed to give a mid-credit sequence,
Yeah.
in which I felt like they're just capitalizing on the fact that movies now, they just don't end anymore.
No.
Which I don't mind for certain movies, but unfortunately, I will say Marvel has gotten people trained not to get up and walk out of a theater because they're expecting a mid-credit and a post-credit sequence. The problem is, like, Marvel's Phase 4, you've got post-credit sequences and mid-credit sequences that we may never see come to fruition.
Nope.
So
I mean, even though one is rumored right now in production, but that's about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We're sitting there and we're looking at a generation that we've been trained to sit through the credits, even if there's nothing. But to give a mid-credit sequence, there was no post-credit, but I felt like this movie didn't need that. It didn't need a mid-credit sequence. It didn't need like one little extra tag. It kind of had that feeling of, like, I don't know if any people had that feeling watching Lord of the Rings Return of the King in the theater, because at home is a different story. Watching it streaming, completely different than going to the theater for a midnight showing. And I know I did it. I don't know if you did it, Jimmy.
No, I saw it on the Saturday after it came out.
See, I saw it on the midnight showing when we still did midnight movies, and you didn't get out of the movie theater till like almost 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But it was, you had a false ending with another false ending with another false ending, which I love the movie. I'm not saying anything negative about the movie, but but Hard Eyes had that element of, like, there was a false ending and you thought it was over and then it's not over and then it does it again. There was no need for that. That's not a movie where you were following an epic, like Lord of the Rings was epic. You had so many characters. You could tell a story where you're having an ending for one group and then it moves on to a different ending for someone else. This movie was, we're following this one main couple. Why are we going after other, where it's like, here we go, here's a false ending, here's another false ending. There's no reason to do that many false stops. Just end it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that here on the Dragoon's Lair podcast, where we have one time too many where we get distracted and then we start going off and on a tangent. But at the same time, we're literally looking at this movie and there really was a lot of false starts. It just doesn't end right. I honestly can't recommend Hard Eyes. If it's Valentine's Day and you're looking for a horror movie to watch, I honestly would have to recommend going back to the early 2000s and watching Valentine's Day. With David Boreanaz, yeah. I honestly think that was a better like Valentine's Day themed horror movie.
I think even Lisa Frankenstein might have been a better horror movie.
I still have to watch that. I've heard good things about it though. But I believe it's like it falls into like the same genre or is part of like Warm Bodies. And there's Lisa Frankenstein. And there's another movie that's very similar. So there's a lot of stuff that we can look at that I think is still better. And it's Friday the 13th. It's not a scary time, even though you superstitious individuals out there might be a little worried. I'm not.
Nope.
I like the number 13.
And just remember, have you realized it?
Go ahead.
June is Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Now, the next month is July, August, September, October, November. Jason. And who's the king of Friday the 13th?
Jason. That's right. All started off by Mrs. Voorhees herself.
Yep.
Little trivia that most people forget, because when you say, who's the killer in Friday the 13th? It's not Jason.
Nope.
It's Mrs. Voorhees. It's Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother. So now we're going to wrap up this episode a little earlier than we normally would because, frankly, it's Friday the 13th. I want to enjoy some horror, but we also have to find out what's going to happen at the end of Friday Night SmackDown, because we want to see what Jacob Fatu is going to do to Solo, as well as any other surprises.
I hate you.
Yep. You know, we had months of Solo, I love you, Solo. And now it's I hate you, Solo.
He's like, yeah, no.
I feel like this was a shitty version of the old Bloodline story. So it just didn't work the same way because it's not the same personalities. But we'll see what happens. And frankly, we've got way too many of these pay-per-views to look at. So we're going to wrap things up. Jimmy, how can everybody get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me, James925 on Blue Sky. Snapchat, JamesSI0925. Instagram threads, James_the4th, James H_the4th, all lowercase. Facebook, James Haynes the 4th. TikTok, James0925. As always,
Might want to say that one again.
TikTok again, James0925. There goes the ties in me. Special shout out, as always, to Tyler, the color creator. Yeah, I know you're watching. Where are you now? I don't know, but I know you're doing the color for the race cars, which is good. And my man Heath over at Boob2 Collectibles. Remember, anybody needs even horror figures, horror Funko, even wrestling and Star Wars figures, he's got it. He's over in Freehold Raceway there. So enjoy.
And you can find me, the Blue Dragoon himself, Daniel the Dragon, at Blue Dragoon 13 on not on Facebook, but on Threads, Instagram. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on TikTok. As long as it's still going, I'm there. Not only that, I'm on Blue Sky Social. Unfortunately, not really posting a lot on there that much, but I am also busy because we have Dragoon's Lair Official, our Instagram page, where a lot of our shorts are being dropped on there. So make sure you sign up to Dragoon's Lair Official on Instagram. Has a Threads page as well. We have the Dragoon's Lair podcast Facebook group, which you can join that. And the poll came through, so I've already gone and I announced what we were doing for this episode on the Dragoon's Lair Official. And I believe I might have done it on my own personal, but it's primarily on Dragoon's Lair Official, letting everyone know what we're doing so that this way they can keep along with us. And hopefully, if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on all of our socials. You can listen to the Dragoon's Lair podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, and 1 week later on Blue Dragoon 13's YouTube channel. Thank you, Jimmy, for making me laugh on that one.
Problem.
But no, so you can follow us on all of there. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Leave us reviews for the episodes. Follow us on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out, and like the videos and leave us comments. I try to respond to as many of them as I can. And I appreciate the banter going back and forth on the TikTok page for some of our shorts. Now, I will address one thing before we wrap everything up, that yes, I do enjoy all of the conversations we're having on there. I do agree that, yes, I don't have to watch all of the wrestling that's on there, but commenting about the fact that it is an oversaturated market is not a criticism of it being bad. It just makes watching everything very difficult. And that's more of a critique on, you're eventually going to burn everyone out. The same way everyone complains they're on superhero movie fatigue, congratulations, wrestling fans are going to get to that same point themselves. Now, but we can still continue to have that conversation. I've enjoyed the conversations that people have had, talking about like bringing back an intermission to the movie theaters, because talking about the logistics from people who work at the movie theaters, and also not just about the pricing, but also like the actual ability to do that, and the fact that it's going to reduce how many movies they can show within a given day and the amount of screens. The comments, the conversations, they're smart, intelligent, and I appreciate each and every one of you for those comments. And for the people who think that the one individual who doesn't have a real name on there but wants to say they should make podcast equipment less accessible, I'd like to see you do better. And besides that, we're also having fun talking to you guys and bringing you guys into this world of
spreading
movies.
This nation and worldwide.
And not only that, but giving us an opportunity to talk about things that we enjoy. And maybe we like something, maybe we don't, but we're giving things a chance that maybe you normally wouldn't. So we might be saving you the headache of watching something that isn't as good as you might have thought it was. But that's our opinion. And you can always go and watch it and then send us an email at dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com.
Let's go an example real quick. I know you don't watch reality shows. I do. One that's on, but we do have one person that we can enjoy, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yep.
All right. Right now, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is doing Destination X. And it's already 3 episodes in. I'm going to tell you something. He actually can sell the crowd so good with his demeanor, his rapport. And I'll tell you this, I can't wait for the next episode of it.
It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's right.
That's all I have to say about that one. So I want to thank everyone for being a part of the community. You can always, from any one of my links, there is a link to the Discord page, so that way you can join the community. We can grow a separate community there. Maybe if we get a large enough group of people to sign up, we might be able to do a watch party where we watch something with you guys. on our Discord page. It's all a matter of how much engagement we get for what we're able to do, and we appreciate each and every one of you for your support. I want to remind you guys to make sure you stay tuned in, so you like, share, subscribe, follow us on our platforms. This way you'll know what's coming out on the next episode, but also we're getting ready for our hiatus, so we're looking forward to doing something big, and hopefully we can get that done before we go on our summer break. And we want to take you guys on a ride, because knowing us, when we come back, we're going to have a lot to discuss. And I want to make sure that you guys enjoy yourselves and we can have a blast. And while we're on our break, I might make a few smaller videos separately, and we may just come together for a special episode here or there, but we'll see how that one all plays out. So thank you all once again for tuning into the Dragoon's Lair podcast. Make sure you stay connected. And
also to those, I know you'll see this afterwards, to those special fathers, uncles, godfathers, and all that out there, happy Father's Day.
And to the good fathers who remember they have kids,
yes,
happy Father's Day. And to the mothers out there who are doing the job of both parents, happy Mother Father's Day.
That's right.
So with that being said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Now get out.